Holy cow, have you been seeing what's on the media lately? I can't even believe it. If you haven't seen it, don't worry, I'm gonna show you.
If the pharmaceutical complex benefit from ill health, you will have the perpetuation of ill health. If they require you to eat food that's bad for you and take medicine that's bad for you, then you find that you have a kind of conveyor belt where we're sort of turned into larvae with parasitic tubes attached to us, one end being pumped full of sugar and seed oil, the other end being pumped full of needless pharmaceuticals.
Does big food have a big secret, and how does it affect you? Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and welcome to my channel where I review and debunk nutritional information online. In this video, a nutrition influencer is taking on, well, a big topic and making some big claims that are getting attention about how bad big food has been for us health-wise. Has some good points. Wait till the end till you see my final comments.
Holy cow, have you been seeing what's on the media lately? I can't even believe it. If you haven't seen it, don't worry, I'm gonna show you. But lately, even the things in the media have been impacting my family, which couldn't make me happier than a dog eating chicken livers.
Actually, Lily is someone I've followed, done a few reacts to, you may remember, and she actually interviewed me on her channel. So check it out. It's coming out soon, I think, if not already. And so I got to know who she is a little bit and realize her path and what she's trying to accomplish, which is her own personal health journey, but then also her family and others. And so I like her perspective where she comes from. She's really trying to help people, it seems to me, and it comes through on the videos. So let's watch.
Breakfast favorites are joining forces. Black Label is releasing bacon that tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. The thick-cut bacon said to be coated with a blend of cinnamon and sugar, creating a crispy, sugary crust when cooked.
I know. They're ruining bacon. Needless to say, I was not impressed when I saw that when I was at the gym.
No, God!
Yes, I know. Yeah, so, sure, we've seen sugar, bacon, and the flavorings and all that, hickory smoked and all, but to have it be now mimicking the flavor of cereal. Big food industry, right? I grew up with Captain Crunch and Fruit Loops, and of course I haven't had those, they haven't crossed my lips in decades, but they're still out there. And now how do you get the people to keep that flavor and the sugar? You hook people on sugar, now you get people to eat more bacon by putting sugar on it. Perhaps that's what's going on here, or there's a trend for people trying to make, non-meat things taste like meat, right? It even confused one of our student-run programs where they went out and bought pork rinds, but they were fake pork rinds made in a vegan style. But you don't see, us trying to make meat into vegetables. It's the vegetable people trying to make their food into things that taste like meat. Anyway, so yeah, this is pretty sad.
Processed sugar and ultra-processed grains and seed oils. When my uncle was president, I was a boy, juvenile diabetes was effectively non-existent. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids is diabetic or pre-diabetic. In the year 2000, the autism rate was 1 in 1,500. Now, autism rates in kids are 1 in 36. Nobody's talking about this. There's nobody else in the world that is experiencing this. This is only happening in America. And why isn't this in the headlines every single day? Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? These are the most precious assets that we have in this country. How can we let this happen to them?
Now I'm just going to refer to him as him because frankly nowadays I never know which words I can and can't say, and that's one of them, so we're just going to call him him. And whether you agree with his politics or not, regardless, this is a nutrition channel. And for me to hear him say those things to the mainstream public, I was like, oh my goodness, did he just really say that?
Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the old. Young adult cancers are up to 79%. About 18% of American teens now have fatty liver disease. That's like 1 out of every 5.
Yeah, and these statistics are alarming, and it's a great point. Why don't we talk about this more? And having politicians finally be registering this as an issue is really important. Yes, it was important, I think, to have insurance and to have health insurance for people, but why wait until someone's sick? What we need to do is I think, be more proactive, like Mr. Kennedy is saying, that it starts early. And there were no pediatric diabetes clinics when I was in training in the 1980s and 90s. And now it's very common for type 2 diabetes actually to be in the children. So these statistics are terrible, and well, what can we do about it?
I've been making a lot of carnivore content, animal-based content for the last few years here on YouTube, but back in October 2023, I had someone from my family reach out to me and call, "Hey Lily, I'd like to lose weight and I'd like to become healthier, but I'm not going to eat a carnivore diet, so what else can I do to start becoming healthier?"
So Lily's journey actually was carnivore and then changed, and I don't know what she's going to be doing. We chatted and we talked about health and about the research that's been done, and so she, like a lot of younger people today, are trying to figure out how to be healthy despite all of the noise. It's awesome that we have some politicians paying attention to this. Although the money flows in the way money flows, it's hard to perturb the way money flows. And so if bad food is being given to children and now we just treat diseases in the medical system reactively, not proactively, the money flows and people make money off illness now. It's not proactive healthcare or preventive healthcare, it's reactive. It will really become medication care, I'm afraid. So the grassroots movement is at work here. She's talking to a family member. I see this so widespread and so important that you talk to your friends, your family, you influence them, because I'm not so optimistic that it's going to come top down, the change that we need. And if that happens, it may take a while, so you don't have to wait until that change to change. So let's see what her grassroots among her family led to.
Now, I was so happy to get this call, but at the same time, it made me really wake up and see that there's a lot of people in the world who they're likely not going to eat a carnivore diet, nor do I think that they have to. So even though I eat a carnivore-ish diet, and yes, I'm gonna continue to make content about it, however, at the same time, I was just talking to that family member yesterday, and they were saying how nowadays you see blueberries are the best thing for you. No, blueberries are the devil. Oh, peas are the healthiest thing for you. No, peas are so horrible for you. And it makes her so overwhelmed that she feels like no matter what she's reaching for, like Brussels sprouts or an apple, she's nervous aren't actually good for her and are just as bad as eating pizza, so she might as well just have the pizza. This is why over the past year, you've seen more of my videos shift into let's stop eating processed junk foods, as the majority of our families, friends, and people all over the world are eating these processed junk foods. I promise the majority of people aren't overweight because they ate too many apples and asparagus. And I think the 3 big dietary changes people could make to start making a huge impact on their health would be to limit the processed sugars, seed oils, and ultra-refined grains, which unfortunately nowadays those 3 ingredients are in the majority of foods in the grocery store.
Of course, you can eat on the Whole Foods or shop at the outside, the perimeter of the grocery store, and eat relatively healthy. You don't have to go to farmers markets, although that's preferable, even if you want to change the food environment and support locally grown and raised types of food. But the idea that these 3 elements are important, there's no question. I don't think they're all the same level of importance, and I'm thinking that these aren't the right terms to use. This is why I use the term carbs, which includes sugars and starches, and it's been it's been around for 80 years, really, to talk about carbs. I guess Dr. Atkins' books came out in the 1970s, so that was 50 years with that book, but the Banting diet actually goes back to the 1860s. So now if we talk about the awareness of what to say to people, junk foods actually is something we grew up with, stay away from junk foods, and now that's changing into ultra-processed foods, but what does that mean? And is that an effective way to communicate what to eat and what not to eat? I'm not sure yet.
And so my family has kind of been getting the idea that it's those 3 ingredients that we want to avoid, but it wasn't until he confirmed it that they finally told me just yesterday that they have removed 95% of the seed oil products that they have in their house, getting rid of lots of the processed junk foods in their pantry, and it just made me so happy. That was my win for the week. Even though I've been seeing new processed junk food concoctions and fast food, different kind of crazy menus and things, overall I have been seeing a lot more social media content and posts and people talking about the big 3 that I think are naughty, and it's just been so exciting to see like a health revolution is taking place.
So the grassroots change, she's influenced the family, the relatives, but we don't know the final outcomes yet. So remember, my background as a clinical researcher, we can start a study, we can say a study is going on and we've made changes, but until the results are in, you don't know. So again, this is a test perhaps of giving them recommendation to avoid seed oils and ultra-processed foods, but what if you just kept eating, 500 grams of fruit every day? You certainly wouldn't be reversing diabetes and obesity unless you're restricting your calories in some other way. So it seems to me the time-honored way to talk about this is saying carbohydrates, saying sugars and starches. And the scientific way to gauge it is the grams of carbohydrate. It's on every label. You just look at the nutrition facts, how many total grams of carbohydrates, not net. Don't play that game if you're doing prescription strength keto like I teach in my clinic. But until there are labels that say ultra processed or not, someone has to make the judgment that is Coca-Cola an ultra processed food if it comes from a fast food place. Things don't say ultra processed on them. But so again, I'm kind of struggling with the right way to communicate to people in my clinic, telling people to cut back sugars and starches, why that automatically cuts out all of those junk foods, ultra-processed foods in the middle of the grocery store, because those are so full of carbohydrates.
If the pharmaceutical complex benefit from ill health, you will have the perpetuation of ill health. If they require you to eat food that's bad for you and take medicine that's bad for you, then you find that you have a kind of conveyor belt where we're sort of turned into larvae with parasitic tubes attached to us, one end being pumped full of sugar and seed oil, the other end being pumped full of needless pharmaceuticals.
So looking at the great way to say it, but he only mentioned seed oils and sugars. If you just had potatoes all day long and didn't have any protein, this is not a healthy way to communicate what to eat. But anyway, pointing out these as problems is very important. Now, what could the solution be and how do you talk about it is going to have to take some time to figure out, I think.
I've lived on pizza actually almost exclusively for many, many years. If you had said to me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, come on, there's nothing wrong with wheat thins, settle down. It does seem like just in the past, year, less than, months even, that what you just said is resonating with people, even people like me, the pizza enthusiasts who have never thought about this at all.
Well, and let's just take that as a case. I don't think pizza is so bad depending on what kind of pizza it is and how much of it you have. So it looks like, there are different names for pizzas and ultra-processed foods, and one time-honored scientific way to gauge the amount is by grams of carbohydrate. I mean, it's right in front of us on every label, and you could look it up if you go to a pizza joint. They'll have the information for you.
That seems like almost a movement in America, acknowledging that we're incredibly unhealthy, that unhealth is by design, and that an unhealthy nation can never really be free.
Well, so I guess there's an open question of whether there's knowledge about doing this on purpose. So culpability, is there any criminal action going on knowing that people are getting sick by what's being sold? Well, that got the tobacco industry into some hot water by covering up how they knew that tobacco smoking was really harmful for people. And there are some people who are trying to make that case that the industry for big food is actually aware that they're making people sick, and that does then, if they are aware, that does lead to some culpability. They're knowingly making people ill. Right now it seems to me these are accusations and a thesis that's being made, and whether they're guilty about it, that's a different issue. I think there's no question that big food and the food that we have in our garbage stores, as Lily says, are contributing to our ill health. Whether it's on purpose or not, or with the knowledge, is a different issue.
Infertility is at peak rates. I mean, I don't know how this is not front page news. 26% of women have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, the thing that people need to understand is that all of these conditions are caused or driven by the exact same thing: our toxic food system and our toxic environment. These subtle, insidious forces that are creating slow, progressive illness starting now in fetal life. They make us sick, but they don't kill us, and then we are drugged for life. A child born in a hospital in the United States today, within hours of coming from source into this, into this body, the first thing that happens to them is in their first day of life.
Well, so again, the knowledge that these things are present, and to say that it's the food and the environment was very logical. In fact, but the idea of what to do about it and expecting or insisting that there be science wrapped around what we say before we have a governmental guideline is really important. The USDA food pyramid had no science behind it before it was released to all of the US. And Callie and Casey Means make the point that actually people followed the food pyramid and it changed things. And so their argument is, let's change things again and people will follow it. So make this awareness happen. But how you do it and how you roll out the language is really important. And check out the book that they wrote, Casey and Callie Means. I think it's a great book. I think it oversells a few things here and there. I mean, my book just says, here's what you do and here's what you can expect to get better. The idea that you have preventable diseases without the actual study that shows you can prevent it, to me, is getting the cart before the horse scientifically. And for a book, it's wonderful, but as a scientist and clinician, it's overselling things a little bit, saying let's just tell people to not have ultra-processed food and everything will be fine. Well, we told people to follow the USDA food pyramid without any kind of science done. Even saying ultra-processed food needs to be restricted needs to have a science test. What do people do when they hear this message? We need at least a pilot study before ideally you'd have the same requirement for the FDA approval of a drug. You would have hundreds of people or thousands of people being told to reduce their ultra-processed food, find this in a study, compare them to another type of program or the typical diet, I don't know, and then just see what happens to them over 6 months to a year. That needs to be done before you just start telling people to stop seed oils and change ultra-processed food intake, in my opinion. Well, so my final thoughts is we have to talk about protein. Protein is what we're made of. Protein comes first. And to just tell people to not have something or to follow a pyramid without talking about basic nutrition, like protein comes first. It could come from animal sources. It could come from vegetable sources. It could be a man-made, human-made food concoction. I don't think throwing out the new things is necessarily always a great thing. So that foods are new doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. And well, if you don't talk about protein coming first, just tell people not to have seed oils, you could come up with a terribly unhealthy kind of diet. So again, identifying that this is the source of a major source of the chronic illness today, big food and big pharma was part of it. That was Dr. Means's or their mother's story, being put on pills. I see that all the time, and it's not a great answer. Most doctors don't talk about food, and they just diagnose you and put you on pills or shots, or even worse. So you can make a change, like is being said here. And it is incumbent upon you, I'm afraid, to learn about it, not be too trusting of a medical system. And I do recommend that you look at the Means's book, because it tells the story of their mom and also of Dr. Means's background in the medical mainstream. And the answer somehow needs to be protein comes first, and avoid those highly processed, sugary, starchy foods, or avoid the carbs, is the way I say it in my practice. We've been doing that for a long time. People get better. It may be a simpler message at the end of the day. Again, that's something that could be tested. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and be sure to look twice a week now for videos that are coming out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and check out adaptyourlifeacademy.com.